And we're live, so that's good. 4:04. Hello, everybody. I'm Annabelle Howard from Big Fun Education, and I'm happy to have some folks here. Some haven't used the Hangouts before, so we're happy to answer questions as we go along. It's just for us. It's just for us to learn and get to know each other. So I think, well, what should we do? A little lightning round just to warm everybody up and just say briefly who we are and where we're from. This Reading Without Borders thing, I guess we have the notion that there are borders, so it might be good to sort of say what we think these borders are. So for myself, I'm British, as you can hear probably, living in America. And I think that there are the kind of borders that I'd like to see us cross are cultural. And also, maybe we can get people interested in things that they didn't think they'd be interested in. And then also another thing is the border between school and home. I'm hoping that we can break that border down for those kids who are in school, so that, for example, when the kid comes home after doing a reading hangout, and mum or dad says, "What did you do at school?" they don't say nothing. You know, I didn't think it was boring. Let's hope we break that border down and they say, "Oh, I had so much fun. You won't believe it. I read with somebody in Dubai today. I can't believe it. I want to know more about Dubai." You know, something like that. So there's so many borders, languages, all of that stuff. And it's not that we want to destroy anything. We just want to see a lot of porous activity. We want to see people connecting and getting excited about the connections. So that's sort of my thing. So who wants to say their thing?
Roxanne.
Sure. Borders can also, in my mind, and I'm Roxanne, sorry, I'm from Connecticut. I work at Fairfield University. I'm a technology specialist, and I joined Reading Without Borders because of Annabelle's excellent Big Fun Education idea of breaking down borders in reading using the Google Group and G+ Hangouts. It's fantastic. And a plug for, I'm also a Google Glass Explorer. I'm not wearing glass today. I just kind of popped in from like a 90-degree weather here in Connecticut, so I'm kind of trying to chill out. Might be popping some water down. But as far as the Reading Without Borders, my idea of a border would be grade levels, separating reading as a grade level. For example, I've seen some examples of excellent books recommended for grade 1, 2, and 3. But if, example, you're a teacher and you have a student that's in grade 1 and maybe rating on a grade 3 level, so I think that's a border. So we need to challenge those borders and perhaps break that idea down. And they used to call it, I don't know if it's called gifted education, but transcend the label, because I think labels can also be perceived as borders. So let's offer reading at all levels for everyone.
I think that's a good idea. I think that's great. Absolutely right. I think with schools are just too happy to put labels on everything and everybody, aren't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's overwhelming to be a teacher in a school. I was exhausted when I did it, and I was 25 or something when I did it. I had to go home for a nap. I was exhausted. I remember literally going home and having, I can't talk, I've got a nap. I mean, it's overwhelming, and labels help us navigate, you know, when there's an awful lot of stuff coming at us. But we've got to remember that no one is a label, and we've got to remember to peel that back and cover it up or whatever, you know. And so I'm hoping that this, oh, looks like Eve's joining us. She's fantastic. She's working this out for the first time. Just found the unmute button yet. She's our human experiment, live human experiment. See if she can go across that border between mute and unmute. I'm so wicked. All right. So it's good that you know that. I mustn't keep that hidden. But yeah, so yeah, sorry to cut in and cut you off as I always do, Ashley.
No, it's all right. Eve, so you move your cursor to the top of your screen, somewhere in the middle. You'll find all those icons. Click the microphone icon, and you should unmute yourself. Top of the screen, in the middle. No, that's left, dear. Oh, you've got the Yeti. You need to get you need to just unmute yourself. Cool. I can match her. Right, just bear with us. Well, Eve has gone way up now. Hey, we could do a commentary while she's doing that. It's quite fun, actually, isn't it? And now Eve is looking around in her handbag, going about now to unmute herself. Sorry.
See, you're wicked as well. This is why.
No, dear, it's not in the handbag, dear.
Oh, we're so bad. Anyway, I think that humor is a great bridge myself. I think we all need to laugh at ourselves quite a bit more than we do, and be willing to laugh with others. So I love humor. If there's a way to bring humor into the reading, I'm in for that, because I think that it's so often left out. You so rarely hear kids laughing when you walk through a school, as I've walked through so many schools, in the hallway. You never hear laughter, really, do you? And I just think that that's something that shouldn't be kept out. I think laughter is a sign of someone really synthesizing a lot of information, being open, and it's a great way to bond with people. So it'd be great if we could have some lightheartedness into this. I think that's something that's often excluded in school. So I would be voting for that. Can you hear us yet, Eve? You can hear us, but you can't. We can't hear you. So you need to go up, and click on the microphone that has the line through it. Just click.
Yes.
Yay!
Yay! Okay, say something. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes. You
See,
are.
I have a Yeti here. It's a
Wonderful.
so the settings are. Is it too loud?
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay, good. Thank you. Glad to be here.
You just crossed a border. Okay, must be doing something wrong, says Scott. I don't hear or see anything. Oh, Aislinn, what do I say? Well,
Right. I'll do chat with Scott. You continue with the ladies, with the new ladies.
Great. So, Eve, did you hear us? Did you hear us
Yeah.
introduce ourselves?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So,
I sure have.
how about you say your thing? Say who you are, where you are, and a little bit about what what drew you to this and what you see as borders that we might break down or cross through this.
Okay, I'm 48 years old, and I'm living in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've been here for about 20 years. Have no children, married, and about 10 years ago when I didn't, when I thought, well, my birthing years are over with, I thought I was a little sad about it. And then I started to look around with, especially with media, and we have a very, very bad teacher shortage here in Nevada, and one of the worst graduating percentages in the country. We are the lowest. And I decided at that time that I could, do something as far as maybe go back to school, that type of thing, and had a couple operations on my feet. I had some cysts in my feet, but started to have to do things at home. And one of the things that I did was I just started to record books and go to the library, start to read with, the kids and that type of thing. And I've always been told that I had a good voice. And my dad, who he's a independent producer. Yeah, he always tells me practice is perfect. Practice is perfect. So that's the reason why I was here, is because I have the time. I'm so blessed in that way. We have 3 cats, but that's not enough, and the kids need us. To have 30 kids, and 1 teacher just isn't enough. And I was also able to draw on an experience where I had a neighbor's child. He was he was 2 years behind. He was flunked, but they flunked him because second graders don't flunk themselves. And he wasn't reading, and I used to babysit for him and read. And before I knew it, he was starting to say, "Hey, we got another story." And it really, kind of changed his life around. So, what was the other part of the question? I'm a little nervous. I've never done this before. I can't believe I'm actually on with you.
Oh yeah, this is great. You're doing well. I think you answered everything. That was fascinating. Yeah, we're all coming at this from our own place, which is great, and it keeps it real. And so, Ishani, is that how I say? Yes, Ishani.
That's right, yeah.
Would you like to tell us about yourself?
Sure. See, as far as borders go, I think the major border that we need to overcome is cultural. Is it okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we can.
We have Dubai, or the UAE has 90% expat population, and people from Asia are working here. So we are dealing with a lot of Asian children.
Hey.
And hello.
I'm sorry, go on.
So I think this initiative will be absolutely superb for these children to get an exposure about how things are done in the other countries, especially in the West. So, and they have no exposure as such, apart from what they get to hear in schools, which is not always of a very high standard. No matter how much people may try, because a lot of things are responsible for the kind of teachers who are available, because here people don't come to live permanently. So there is continuously people coming in, working for a few years and moving on. So you don't really get to know people over a long period of time. The teacher who sits next to you may not be there next morning because her husband might have moved on somewhere else or gone back to his own country, and she follows him. So the teacher community is constantly changing. So standards are fluctuating. And a lot of other things, which is very, very typical of this place. And an initiative like this would be just excellent, where you can perhaps ensure certain amount of stability in the kind of exposure that a child is probably going to get, and at no cost at all.
Right.
So I feel that is a very good initiative in that way.
What do you mean by civility? I mean, I know what the word means, but what's underneath that?
I didn't get you. Can you please come again?
Civility.
Stability.
Oh, stability.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you said civility, which was interesting.
No.
Yeah. We hope it's going to be civil.
Yeah. I guess where you are, it has a huge expat culture, hasn't it? That's what you mean.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because they can do this if they were to start it here with us through you, and then to move, they could continue it, and then introduce
of course
to it. So it would,
of course,
a little bit viral.
I see a huge potential in this, huge potential with this, getting on. As it is, the reading culture is almost not seen amongst our children nowadays.
That's a good point.
We're struggling all the time to get children to read. First of all, English is not their first language. It's a foreign language. Secondly, there is no speaking English at home in most cases. Say 80% children do not speak English at home. It's their own languages.
So where you are, you're talking about where you are.
Yeah. For example, children from Pakistan, children from Afghanistan, children from Sri Lanka, children from India, children from Bangladesh, you can understand. So English is not their mother tongue. So it's an uphill task, really. to get them to read and do better in their writing, speaking, listening, whatever. But everyone wants to speak better English and learn better English. And first of all, reading, to get children into reading, that is absolutely almost becoming non-existent now. There's no habit of reading.
I like the fact when you said make it visible. I think that's the thing that we can do with Hangouts. I mean, I'm not really interested. I don't worship technology. I'm not really interested in it. If I can do it just as well offline, that's fine by me. But what I am interested in is what can technology do for us more than what can we do for it. I don't want to be a slave to it. I want it to do something for us. And I think you really nailed it there, Ishani, by saying that we can use these Hangouts to make reading more visible. Because I think that struggling readers, and we don't need to focus exclusively on those who struggle, because there's definitely the other end of things too. But it tends to be very isolating and lonely and scary for a lot of children who would much prefer to be sociable.
You know, can I say something though? In all this, since you started Reading Without Borders, Annabelle, I've heard that a lot about reading not being fashionable, reading not being popular. But every parent I speak to tells me my kids love reading. So,
may I say something too?
Yeah, go ahead.
I also believe too that when you read, you're a better speller. I know that when I was a kid, I won a contest for reading the most books in 3rd grade, and my dad always said to sound it out. And the reason that you would do that is because of the fact that you'd be reading a book, and if you really liked what you were reading, you would go and find, if you didn't know what the word was, you would look it up. And also just being very familiar with seeing the words and knowing how to read does make you just a better communicator altogether on paper as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. To your point, Aslan, I would say either A, you only know incredibly amazing people.
No, seriously, no one tells me my kid doesn't read. So.
B, who's going to say my kid doesn't read? I have said that, all right? Now let it be known that I as the perfect parent that I think I am, I have one child who used to read like crazy and one that never did. And actually, the one that I think never did, he came back to visit me a little while ago, and he had a book with him. I thought there must be something wrong. What's going on? Is it an midlife crisis? And I said to him, so what's this? What's the deal with this book? Why are you taking a book with you? Because he'd come up on the train. And I said, he said, I'm reading it. And it was the most ridiculous conversation. And I said, so you're rediscovering reading? And he said, Mum, I'm just discovering it. I'm not rediscovering it. So I am a mother who will freely admit that one child read, one child did not read. I think.
But you know what? But actually, just before I answer that, Scott's just said, I will admit that. Admit what, Scott?
Oh, we can hear you.
We can actually hear you. Wow.
Turned it off. Okay, here I am. I'll admit that my daughter doesn't read except her texts and her Instagram and those kinds of things. She's 16 and she does read some novels. She likes a teen drama a little bit, but pretty much she doesn't read on her own.
Right. Well, the bit on your own, you see, that's one of the borders that I want to break down, because I think there's a stigma against, oh, it's not reading if you're doing it with someone else. Well, tell that to the National Theatre when they're preparing for a performance. Of course it's reading when you're reading with someone else. It's just that, and again, I understand teachers needing a bit of peace and quiet and saying, oh, drop everything. That DEAR program, drop everything and read. So I would do that too if I was in a classroom, because it's like I get overwhelmed with all that noise. But we don't want kids associating being lonely and quiet with reading. So I think that in this forum here with the Hangouts, we've got a great opportunity to bring people in like your daughter and have her read with people out loud, laugh in between, like make associations, make connections. It's almost when you're reading aloud with someone, and if you let it be loose a little bit, it's you're really in the moment with someone, and you're exchanging information in a very vital way that is, it's thinking outside the book, and it's thinking, and it's associated with the book. And I think that then afterwards, you might go back after an exchange like that where someone got all worked up about a book, and you go, wow, they got worked up, what was that? And then you go back and you go, oh, maybe I should read that a bit more closely. So by virtue of breaking down that, individual silent reading, you could make vast steps and improvements, I think. Maybe.
It will go a long way creating interest also, I feel. There are so many children who would read if that inhibition could be overcome.
Actually, I think there are lots of kids who would read if teachers just let them read what they wanted to read.
Yeah, there's that as well.
I mean, because there are lots of boys, younger boys, or older boys for that matter, in my experience, having got 2 boys and 2 girls, boys just gravitate towards non-fiction, for whatever reason. There are lots of them who love fiction, but they also do tend to go to the dinosaur books, the space books, the Guinness Book of Records, for some reason. My eldest, when he was 4, he'd love to read through the Guinness Book of Records, and he'd know all the records, by heart. But that's reading for him, and he enjoyed it, And when they had to, at that time, they were still in school, and when he had to do a presentation of what book he'd read that week, we had a chat with the teacher. Look, he really doesn't want to read your 3 words a page book because he's been reading for a while now. And so they agreed to let him present the Guinness Book of Records, and he enjoyed it because it was something he liked reading. And I think that's the main thing, because we were talking about borders, weren't we? We were talking about boundaries, because when you're in school, you start school, whether you are a reader already or you're not a reader, schools have, like Roxanne said, grade this is what you read, grade that's what you read, and that's wrong. If kids had more freedom, they'd enjoy reading more. But then, bear in mind also that I'm a homeschooling mom, so I am all about freedom, letting the kid do what the kid wants to do. So
yeah, well, this brings me to a question I wanted to bring up, and that is, give me your wisdom. How do you feel we should organize this community? Because it has to run mostly by itself. So it's smart to have categories there in the community that really serve us well. I don't believe in putting, 6-year-olds together, 7-year-olds together. What? That's daft, for the reasons that you just said, Aslin. I would rather see it centered around topics. Let the kids who all love engineering get together. Let the kids who all love, fiction get together. And let the people on Google Plus who are going to volunteer, and we've got, quite a lot of volunteers now. They're sort of waiting in the wings. What do you want me to do? I can't be emailing each one of them or messaging each one of them 10 times. We have to have some sort of system that lets people know where to go, where they're needed, where they're wanted, where they're useful. So I think that, say a 10-year-old is interested in entrepreneurialism, whatever, doesn't know much, kind of like hears this, likes the sound of it, wants to make an app or something, doesn't know if they can sell it, whatever. There's so many people on the Plus who might be able to give them 20 minutes and talk with them and really, really act like a mentor to some extent. So how do we make those connections happen without it being, just impossibly time-consuming for us to, keep, saying, hey, you, why don't you talk to you? What do we do? What's the mechanism?
I think perhaps a Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet. What about the classroom? Does classroom work for that?
I don't know. I think that I know I'm entitled to have it because I'm a non-profit, but I haven't found it yet.
Okay. I think perhaps you had somebody, the chap who is in South Korea. Was it South Korea? You had someone in Korea?
Yeah.
Who was doing the Excel sheet. I think the next step is this, really. We need to have volunteers and we need to have students. So that's the next step. So get this Excel guy, the one who did this spreadsheet for you, to perhaps start sorting that out. And then you need to create a Google Doc where students via teachers can actually access it and perhaps choose a topic. What do you think, Roxanne? What's the best way? It is a bit convoluted, isn't it?
I think that I'm trying to process and ingest all this great information here. I'm loving it. The Excel spreadsheet's an excellent idea, and I like the idea of maybe having some kind of we have to. I think AB, you mentioned time zones. It's really that I could see as a barrier, because obviously if someone's in a different time zone, that's going to be difficult. So we have to have maybe some way to sync up time zones. So if you're matched with a school, maybe a reader could be matched with a school to start out with, and maybe have a column for time zone or a little calculator for time zones, and someone so it runs itself is important to me too. So just being able to put your name in that slot, so you opt into a slot, something like that.
Yeah, I think that would be quite easy to do. He's great, this guy. I can't remember what his name is. Jeffrey something. Anyway, he was in South Korea, and he went on this long bike ride. This is going to sound silly. And now he's in America. He didn't bike all the way to America. I know that was sort of the sequence of events. Anyway, he is here, and I think he's looking for a teaching job. So he's gone rogue for a little bit while he sets himself up. But he has set me up with a lot of information like that, and I could probably, it's in a, what is it in? A Google spreadsheet. So I guess what I'll do is copy that and make that available to everybody and tell them to, put them, opt in and look around. Because if you just sort of like go round and around each category, you get dizzy and you get sick of it, don't you? And also there's no knowing whether you found the right match.
So how do the students work? Where are they coming from? Are they coming from the schools that you are pulling in, Annabelle, or from volunteers like Ishani? Where are the students coming from?
Not from me. It's teachers who are opting in.
Right.
So when they go to the community, you're signing up either as a volunteer or a teacher.
Okay.
So, and we've got people from over 26 countries already, and quite a few are interested in doing Hangouts in other languages. And something that Aslan and I have talked about, Aslan speaks countless languages. And
not necessarily fluent in all. Let's get that clear. But I can
pretty good. She's ahead of the curve here. And somebody else, actually somebody who works for Google, said to me he would read part of Le Petit Prince in French, and I thought, oh, let's do that then. Let's have him do that, and maybe he could tag someone else to read it in another language. Sort of take after that ice bucket thing, but instead of throwing ice water over yourself, how about you read a little bit of a book to record? I mean, the talk about barriers. The barrier to entry for a lot of this is that people don't know how to do Hangouts on air, and so my thought was it would be lovely to have. I've got a category there on the community called I think it's called Good Night Stories, and it'd be lovely if lots of us could contribute those. 3 of us here, we've done that, I think, or no, maybe I haven't, but but we can do that when we know how to do a Hangout on air, and we just do it with ourselves, and we just record it, and it's lovely. And then other people might, a kid who's in this program might go home again and say, I do think that, the Hangout really, with the YouTube connection, really builds that homeschool connection, which I think is missing so much. It's so important for parents to be involved and excited and supportive of what the kids are doing, and to find out what the kids are excited about. So if the kids do this and they say, Mom, my teacher said that we could do a good night story on the on the iPad tonight, from that community, and they go, really, find it, and then they navigate. The parent is proud. They find this story all by themselves, and yeah, it's passive in a way, but the parent is listening as well. The parent and child are then put on the same side of the equation, which is good, because I don't think parents should always be the authority in a way, the same way that teachers shouldn't always be the authority. it's good to model learning, model listening, model hearing something for the first time and not getting it, model asking some questions without feeling stupid, you know, all that good stuff. So the parent and child might hear this story, maybe they don't know French very well, but mum used to do it in school and the kid is learning it, whatever. You know, there's just so many borders that might be crossed there.
Right.
But the barrier is to get these people to record these stories. But I think maybe one way to push that is to make it a little bit of a challenge and maybe even like push the ego a little bit, you know, so you want to be seen doing this. It's a cool thing to be seen doing. It shows that you care about kids. It shows that you know how to do a Hangout on air. You know, I don't know quite how to frame it or whatever, but sometimes you have to put a little bit of muscle behind something for someone to do it. So I don't know what the trigger would be, what the tipping point would be for people to start doing that, but wouldn't it be amazing to wake up each day and find, you know, 10 more in 5 different languages? And you could read the same little bit of a story from Le Petit Prince. You could do that in probably 20 languages. Listen to that same passage in a different language each night. I don't know. So many things. So it's just how do you motivate people to do this stuff? That's one thing. So we're not going to solve it all now, but that's just something that we've got to try and work on it, all of us, in different ways. Try things out. You know, ask people to do it, and then they don't. All right, so let's try something else. And then the other thing I think is we've got to be clear because what we want them to do. So if they don't know how to do a Hangout, what can they do? They love reading. What can they do? So we have to make it very clear, clearer than I've made it so far, to people volunteering as to what they can do. At the beginning I defined it a little narrowly. I said it had to be one-on-one. I said it had to be a Hangout on air. I've gone away from that idea. Mainly, I was at the time applying for a Google grant, which was encouraging me to go that way. Didn't get the grant, unfortunately. So the good news is that now that we don't need to, you know, to put any limits on this, we can have one person reading to a whole classroom. Doesn't have to be recorded. I think some people are shy about being on camera. I certainly was at the beginning. Now I don't really care. But at the beginning I really did care. It's really funny. So yeah, I understand why there's hesitancy, but the more we can get people to lean in and do this stuff. But the great thing about it being recorded is that then you can show it to other people. Because if it's not recorded, no one will know it happened. You know, and also the other thing is to get kids to write about the experience on the thread. That would be nice. So I guess what we'll do is I know that some teachers have been incredibly enthusiastic. They're waiting for this to start. So I will have to remember which ones they were, and try and connect them up with some volunteers and try and persuade them to do it on air. I think so that then we can keep sharing that and going look.
Yeah. I think if you've got a selection of classes, students, teachers and students, I think let's get a list of those first, even if they're just sort of half a dozen or less. Let's get those teachers to tell us what their students are interested in, whether as a class. I mean, even the students, you know, they might not be too comfortable with the whole idea of a one-to-one. So let's start off as a class. Just to get the ball rolling, let's find out. Okay, let's pick a topic. Let's pick, you know, a topic, and if the topic has got to have a certain level as well. I mean, we're not doing grades, Roxanne, so don't shut me up. It's got to have a certain level. You know, if they're sort of 8-year-olds compared to 15-year-olds, we're talking different levels there. So let's pick a topic. Let's pick a level. If they have a particular thing they'd like to read, and then those of us who are volunteering, let's see if we can actually step up and pick a class. Perhaps that's how we start off first, just to get the ball rolling.
Right, exactly. And then, yeah, then there'll be lots of other ways to do it. I mean, once we make it look enjoyable, which is kind of the big thing. It's, you know, when you say it's reading, when you say it's big fun education, it better be fun.
Yeah, of course.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I was going to say I've got what's his name, Paul Stickland coming on an HOA, haven't I? I told you about that on the 17th or something like that. Would you like to turn that into a, because he's going to read, he's going to have the whole thing up, he's going to bring up his text and he's going to read from his book. So would you like to turn that into a whatever, Big Fun Education hangout? I mean, you know, I don't have a problem with that. I was going to interview him from my page, but we can do it as that and turn it into a bedtime story. Do you want to do that? I mean, he won't have a problem with that.
Brilliant. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
He could do it as a bedtime story, meaning no live audience with him. Or if he wanted a live audience, I'm sure we could find some classes that would love that.
Okay. 8 p.m. Yeah, I did go for 8 p.m. so we could manage somebody in the US. So yeah. So I'll. Do you want to try and see if we can get a live class first before I ask him if he'd like a live audience in case we could?
What would it be about? I think of him and I think of dinosaurs.
Dinosaur Raw. That's the guy who wrote Dinosaur Raw. But he's also got trucks, all sorts of other books.
Maybe ask him which book he'd like to do.
I think it will be Dinosaur Raw because this is the 20th anniversary.
Oh, okay. And what age group is that for?
It's have I got a calendar? This is my husband's computer. What's today's date?
The 4th.
Thank you. And are we on the first day? Yes, we are. So 17th, Wednesday, the 17th of September, 8 p.m. GMT, so 3 p.m. EST. So that's when we've got it scheduled for. So he's quite a well-known author, Roxanne. He writes kids' books and he gives talks and he does tours and all sorts of things. So
yeah. So what age group is the book for? Do you know?
Very young. My boys, well, Trafford had it when he was little. I think anything really from sort of 3 up to about 7, 8. I think that's. Oh, but that's quite young. That's quite a young age group. You're not going to get school kids.
No, they might watch. You know, they won't be in the hangout, but they might hear about it and watch.
Yeah, because I mean, it's going to be a live hangout. You know, we'll try and get as many people into the audience to ask questions of him. But what he's also doing, and let's see if he actually does it, is he's going to get in touch with other playwrights and other writers to come onto the hangout as panelists. So they'll be sort of, you know, potential for us, you know.
I'm sorry. I'm going to step away for a minute.
Don't worry. Yeah. So okay then. I'll get in touch. I'll send him an email tomorrow, and I'll ask him about. Well, actually, no, he doesn't need to know anything. I'll just drop him an email. I'll just drop him an email next week to find out how he's doing, and just say that would he like to do it as a Big Fun Education bedtime story thingy, so he'll be fine with that. So.
It won't be bedtime. Well, it could be bedtime if he doesn't want to.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, because you're right. It won't really be a bedtime because he's going to be talking. For a few minutes, he's going to be talking about himself and his work and all that stuff.
Yeah. So it'd be better to have classroom there, or 2 or 3.
I think if we can manage, it doesn't matter if they're all slightly older kids because he'll be talking about what he does. So if we can, why not?
All right, fantastic, Aslan. Thanks for letting that happen with the Reading Without Borders sort of.
Yeah, no problem. It's no big deal. Yeah, no big deal at all. Yeah.
That would be great. All right, so let me know if he says yes, and then I'll set that up.
He'll say yes because he's very supportive of this Reading Without Borders, so he'll say yes, I'm sure.
Great. So I'll just go ahead and just make that event then.
Just make it happen. Yeah, just make it happen. Yeah, that's fine.
Time to get people. And it'd be a wonderful first sort of event.
I think so. Yeah, I think
that's
so.
A really good tone, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. Well, we've been talking for whatever it is, 43 minutes. I know there's lots more we could say. I personally love that one-on-one hangout thing. I don't want to drop that completely. I'm quite looking for I would like a 10-year-old girl to read with because I don't have girls. I had 2 boys. I want to read all those girly books with somebody who's going to love them. Yeah, like Alice in Wonderland, and I want to read Winnie the Pooh. I want to read bear books.
10-year-old. girls, for goodness sake, my 10-year-old doesn't read Winnie the Pooh.
Well, I'm not telling you how old I am, but I do read Winnie the Pooh, so there you are.
Oh dear. Actually, we do have
Winnie the Pooh.
I must confess though, I'm not a fan of Winnie the Pooh. I liked the programs. I don't like the books.
Well, we're not having you on our panel, I'll tell you that.
I'm sorry, I don't get it. My in-laws actually we have a collection of Winnie the Pooh books too, but my in-laws have them, and you know, they treasure Winnie the Pooh, and I just don't get it.
Why? What don't you get?
You know,
I'm getting there.
on the internet they had a poll on who was your favorite character, and it was really hard for me because I liked I can't even think of it. You know, the line, Tigger.
Tigger, yeah.
And I also like not the depressed one, but the rabbit, the piglet.
Oh, yeah.
Piglet.
Yeah. It was very, very hard for me. Now they said the Igor, remember the mule that was all depressed?
I like that depressed one. I like him.
Yeah, I did too. But I was like, I love all of them. Winnie, I mean, but they're like, pick your favorite. I don't remember where it was from, but I think Winnie the Pooh's pretty special. It shows you.
No, I don't get it. I just don't get Winnie the Pooh. We used to have a stuffed Eeyore, and every time he pulled his tail off, he'd go Eeyore. Well, of course it would, wouldn't it? That was quite entertaining for a while.
I think maybe it's a little bit about a metaphor. You've got one that's kind of depressed and one that's kind of, not. And then you have this big storm going on, and the pot of honey. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of hidden meanings, kind of like Alice in Wonderland in a way.
Yes, but if you ask me about Thomas the Tank Engine, now I love Thomas and his friends.
I love Paddington the Bear. I love and Pippi Longstocking.
The Willows. Wind in the Willows.
We're just doing Pippi Longstocking, my girls, because they're book club. They go to book club every Thursday morning, so they just started doing that book there with other sort of 6 to 10-year-old girls, so they're quite enjoying that.
Well, that's another thing, that if kids wanted to, they could lead their own groups. And we can facilitate it in terms of setting it up and just sort of hovering in the background to make sure it's all cool and nobody weird gets involved. But they can lead it with their own questions. I mean, I used to take the kid of mine that reads. I hope my kids don't see this. The one that reads. He used to go to the book club at the library, and we parents were there, but we didn't speak much. It was the kids that were saying, "Okay, it's your turn next week to lead it." And so I think it might be a really good experience for the kids to take this on themselves if they like a book.
Yeah.
Like a book or a topic or whatever.
I think, have we lost Ishani? It's almost 1 o'clock her time, actually.
Oh, yeah.
We lost her.
It's okay.
No, you're still there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm there.
Froze, Ishani. Your picture froze.
Yeah. Oh, is it? What should I?
Yeah. Okay. So we do that then, shall we? We get okay. First, Annabelle, you've written it down. Sorry, I'm giving you your.
Yeah, go on. Someone has to.
Sort out the Paul Sticklin audience, 1 or 2 classrooms.
Yeah.
And then also get the teachers who volunteered with classrooms to step forward and pick a topic and their level and whatever.
Yeah, and get the Excel sheet thing available to everybody.
Yeah. So did you want to kickstart on the 17th of September then with Paul Sticklin? Then you might as well. Then then it'll be quite a big thing, and we can promote it and all sorts, can't we?
Yeah, definitely. Talk about it. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Let's do that.
Okay.
And I was going to say, there are people in Central and Pacific time zones that wanted to be in on this kind of, ground roots, whatever you call it, grassroots, ground roots.
Grassroots.
I don't know what ground roots are. Grassroots. It's a whole other community, I'm sure. But anyway, the ones that want to talk about this that were on the other side of the world, They want me to do one sort of this time next week, in a few hours. So later. So I'm just trying. We'll do a bunch of these things and just try and get people to say who they are, why they care about this, and what can you do, and let's just we'll just be doing a few of these until we get as many people as we think would like to be in them.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So I'll share that. I'll get the Excel thing done. I will get an audience for Paul, and I'll get some teachers up and ready.
Cool.
Yeah. Be good if we could get some teachers. I know there's a couple of teachers who are reading specialists, and they're willing to volunteer. So they would be great to sort of model this, because I think the other thing is that people, just because you love books doesn't mean you know how to talk about books with kids. So you might have a little bit of anxiety on that. So again, if we can get some people who are very comfortable with doing it, then you go, oh, I can do that. Then great, go off, you do it too, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, you know what you could do also, Annabelle, is next thing when you've done the Excel and all that, perhaps do a short PowerPoint list of how you envisage running the reading session with a kid. If you were doing it with a 10-year-old or whatever, how would you do it? Because I'm sure lots of volunteers haven't got a clue what is expected of them apart from actually just reading. So.
Right. Yeah.
That's
post that in the how. I put a few things like that in the how-to. Do more, but we can. Yeah. But also seeing is a great way to get it. In. We need to do short ones. I tend to go on too much, as you can already tell. So, I'm gonna zip it now. Okay. Well, listen, everybody. Thanks for showing up, and we will. I will click the stop broadcast now, and this is the first of many. And thanks so much for opting in. I really appreciate it.
Thank
you.
Nice meeting you all.